So like let's talk about this whole tacos for dinner because a lot of people were curious when they saw the title. They're like, what's up with tacos for dinner? I need to know what's up. But tell us about what that is about and what was the challenge that you went through and what inspired you to write this chapter?
So my challenge wasn't, it was kind of a series of things that was happening throughout my life that I didn't realize. And then it all kind of, came to a head. And the challenge that I faced was people pleasing. And it was something that I had been doing all my life. And when it finally came to a head and I started realizing what I was doing, I realized that this little challenge was such a huge challenge in my life, and it affected so many different aspects of my life and in my relationships too. And tacos for dinner came out of the idea came out from when I had the realization that I'm starting not to people please. So and tacos for dinner was I was with someone and we were going to go to dinner, and they asked me what I wanted for dinner. And normally in that situation, I just kind of back off. I'm just whatever you want, I don't care, it doesn't matter, whatever. I really legit wanted tacos that night, and in a normal situation where I wouldn't vocalize what I wanted, in this situation it was like, I want tacos. So
Wow.
that's why I called it tacos for dinner. And it was just basically my realization of, wait a minute. I just did something that I wanted to do. I did something that wasn't people pleasing in that moment. And even though it seems so silly, it was such a huge accomplishment for me. So it was yeah, I was excited about that. So that's why I called it tacos for dinner.
I love that. No, yeah. And tell us like, just like what challenges like you had based on your experience with people pleasing and just so the audience can get a better understanding of how people pleasing can, cause challenges in people's lives. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that have gone through people pleasing. I myself too, but tell us about like what challenges does that people pleasing cause in someone's life?
Right. I think a lot of times when you're a people pleaser, you don't realize that you're a people pleaser. And it really did take someone to point it out to me. And once they did, then I started looking back on other things that happened in my life, and I realized, okay, this was because I was trying to please someone. And for people who are like hard, people pleasers, it feels so good to do what other people want you to do for some reason. Like there's just something to do. It makes you feel good. Like, okay, I'm doing what they want to do. I'm not rocking the boat. I'm not questioning stuff. I'm doing what this person wants me to do in this moment. Or I'm kind of anticipating what they want me to do in a certain moment, and I'm framing my character, and I'm framing everything about them. Like everything's always about this other person or this other situation, and you're never really living your life the way that you want to live it. And so I think that, coming to the realization that you're a people pleaser is a hard one, and it's actually really hard to let go of it too at the same time, because like I find myself in situations where I and now I'm more cognizant of it. So I think about, like, am I just trying to please this person, or am I doing what I genuinely want to do? And so it takes time and a lot of effort to get to the point where like you realize that you're a people pleaser first of all, and then take, doing the steps that it takes to actually work through something, and actually look at every you almost have to look at every situation you're in with a new set of eyes, because that was always my problem, is that I didn't have my own eyes. I wasn't looking through things with my own eyes and my own vision. I was looking at everything through the lens of what that person wanted or what was best for them, and never really considering what I needed and wanted in that moment. So those were the hardest challenges for me. And I think once I realized that, there comes this overwhelming feeling of disappointment, that you've been living such a large portion of your life for other people's needs and wants and desires, and you put yourself aside in those instances, you know. So that was a hard thing to face.
Yeah. And as you're saying that, you're when you say that, I definitely can understand how a lot of people can resonate with what you're just saying right now. Like that last part that you just said about how, man, it's not easy. It's something that's hard to break through, like it's something that's almost like you're thinking to yourself, man, I've wasted, like, not wasted, but I mean I've spent all this time trying to make everybody happy at the expense of not making myself happy.
Right.
And I believe like when you're not making yourself happy, that could lead to some negative, I don't know if it like emotions, or what would you say that leads to when you have those challenges of trying to like just please everybody?
So, I mean, for me, it was a lot of resentment. And
Mm.
I think, like in my marriage was one of the places I saw that. And also in some of my relationships since then too. You just notice that you're in constant mode of trying not to rock the boat and trying to please people and not expressing what you need in a relationship or out of something. And I think over time, you start to build resentment against that other person. And it's not necessarily their fault. It's because you didn't vocalize what you needed from the get-go. And I think that, once you realize that, your intent of not wanting to rock the boat, seems like you're trying to do the right thing. I think a lot of people pleasers feel that way, that you're trying to do the right thing, like, even with a client, like a client may come to me and say, I want this, or I want this, or I want you to reduce the rate by this, or I think you're charging too much, or whatever the situation may be. And in your mind, people pleaser mode, you want to make them happy. You want to make them feel like you care about them and that you're understanding, their situation. And so then you'll agree to it. And then 2 days, 3 days later, you're like, why am I doing this? I'm working 10 times harder than I was before. And this, in your thinking, this person isn't valuing or appreciating me. And then that's where the resentment starts to come in. And then you kind of hold that in. And I think it does have effect on your health and in your mental, emotional health, and all those things, and I, it's hard to like step, because once you've been doing it for such a long time, it's hard to step out of it and really look at each situation. So like for me, I take a step back now, and in every situation I'm like, am I doing this for them, or am I doing it for me? And it's like, you got to be selfish sometimes.
Yeah, yeah. I
Gotta
like
be.
that.
And you also got to, I think sometimes in the people pleasing, it also affects, how you view yourself and how you value yourself. So when you're doing all these
Wow.
things, people, you're minimizing your value. And even in a relationship, if someone does something that hurts you and you don't vocalize that it hurt you, it doesn't mean that they have to agree with you, or they have to acknowledge it, or they have to say they're sorry. But I think, in a normal situation, a people pleaser may walk away from that and not say anything, and just let it go. But in the meantime, it bothers them and it hurts them. But I think, being able to vocalize what you need and what you want and what your expectations are. I mean, I had this instance come up with a client the other day, and she was questioning some of the charges on her statement. And we were doing extra services on her unit. And she didn't understand why we weren't just doing those extra services on when the housekeeper was cleaning. And it didn't, the situation didn't always lend itself to the housekeeper doing stuff when she was there. She'd have to make an extra trip to do some of this stuff. And so like trying to explain to someone, there's value in that. Like I have to pay an employee to go up and do this project that you want them to do. And even if they were on site, doing a housekeeping service, let's say, um, that's still extra work outside of what they would normally do for like a turn clean. to get this work done, you know? And so it's like trying to then break it down and really explain your value to someone. And in that situation, she totally understood. Like she sat back and she's like, I don't want you to think that we don't value what you do. She's like, we really value what you do. And now that you're explaining it in this way, I completely understand. And I'm okay with the charge. Let's do this, you know? And that was that. So I think a lot of times we scare ourselves into not maybe vocalizing stuff because we think
Yeah.
that it's going to become negative on the other end.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And like you said, I feel like, some of the insights that you've given us today is first, like being aware that you're a people pleaser. I think that's the first step, and acknowledging that, hey, I am a people pleaser, and taking a step back and looking at yourself, watching yourself and saying, hey, am I doing this for them, like at the expense of my own health or at the expense of like my own happiness?
Right.
And also speaking it, vocalizing it. I think like those three steps right there are very powerful and need to be practiced. I think practice is also an important thing when it comes to saying what you want, because like you said, you're so used to sometimes just not, I mean, all the time, not expressing what you want. But
Right.
when it comes to vocalizing it and finally saying it, like how was that first time, and then how has it been afterwards?
It's so hard. It's so hard. I first time you do it, it's like and people who are true people pleasers out there will identify with me on this. It's like torture. It's like torture other person wants. And you really have to trick your mind that you're not being mean to that person and you're not, you know, calling them out or you're not doing those sorts of things, but you're just taking care of yourself in that scenario and
Absolutely.
doing that. And sometimes, you know, on the other end, it may not be what you want to hear, and that's fine, you know. But yeah, I'd have to say, you know, and I'm still working on it. I think I've been working on this for the past like 6 7 months, really working on it. But it's hard, it's not easy, and sometimes I really have to slow myself down and take a pause, because I think sometimes with people pleasers it's automatic. You just automatically say whatever you want. And so sometimes you just have to take a step back and have to take a pause and think about how you're going to respond to something. And Andres, I mean, I was such a people pleaser, like in the tacos for dinner situation. I wouldn't know what I wanted. You know, I was so used to pleasing other people, I didn't even know what I wanted. So, and that's a little emotional.
Yeah, I can feel it. Yeah, for sure. And that's cool that another thing that I really appreciate about you, because we've been working together for some time, and I appreciate about you, like even right now, being vulnerable and expressing your feelings. It's so important, I think, to be able to say what you feel, and feeling those emotions, like I know that sometimes like people pleasing, like you said, you can build up so much resentment and so much bottled up inside that it could cause a lot of challenges. But um I feel like the progress that you've made and the things that you've done, I mean, you've definitely done a lot on yourself, and you keep working on yourself, which is great. And I'm always telling I'm super proud of you for all this work that you're doing, because it hasn't been easy, and it's definitely a work in progress. Like we're not here to say that we have it all figured out, but
Right.
if you're making progress, if you're getting better, if you're being more aware of your people pleasing tendencies, now you can be looking at it, like you said, from a different lens. Like you're out here saying, hey, hold up, like am I doing this like out of love, or am I doing it out of people pleasing or feeling obligated to do
Right.
this because I don't want to rock the boat? Like,
Right.
like tell us about that. Like the fear of rocking the boat. Like that's something that a lot of people, I hear that a lot. So
So for me, that tends to happen in more in relationships. It also happens on the business level for me too, because you know it may be a client I really like doing business with, or you know, and I just don't want to rock the boat or cause issue with someone that I like working with. But I think it mostly happens in relationships. So I think in relationships, I tend to see myself being more of a people pleaser because I don't want to rock the boat, and then I'll get to the point where I'm like, just like someone isn't treating me right, like legit isn't treating me right, and then I will vocalize this, and then I have to like cower back a little bit because I'm like scared of what's going to happen, and I've gotten better at that, I think,
Yeah.
but it takes a while to get used to doing that with someone, because in your mind it's like you don't want to cause trouble, you don't want to hurt that one, you care about that person, so you don't want to, you don't, you're in your mind, you're thinking, well, they're just going to break up with me, or they're going to hate me, or they're not going to like me, or there's just a ton of different reasons why you feel that way, but and then meanwhile, you're dealing with that person may have done something that wasn't nice to you, that wasn't good. And so it's like you're trying to internalize all that. And it's overwhelming. It's overwhelming. So if any of you people pleasers out there, like my heart goes out to you because I just know how that feels. And it's not easy being able to speak up and use your voice. That takes time for a people pleaser, but like the first few times you do it and you're like, wait, oh, this kind of feels good.
Yeah.
This feels good, this kind of feels good. And sometimes you'll be, like I find myself in the midst of difficult, tough situations where you have to speak up, knowing that it's the outcome isn't going to be necessarily what you want it to be, or what you may want to hear back or whatever, and that's okay too, because at the end of the day, once you get that done and over with, then you're off to something new, and dealing dealing with something different,
Right.
and it's actually this negative thing ends up being a positive because it releases you from this
Mm.
dynamic into something else that is a positive one, or your next adventure in life, so I mean, I try to look at each situation as, even though they're hard, as an adventure, so good or bad,
Yeah.
so.
No, this is great stuff, and it's like really good information. And I think it's really great to hear somebody who has dealt with this challenge, and you're still working through it, but it's
Mm,
great. It's almost like I know that people, when they hear this, they're going to resonate with so much of this because there's a lot of people out there that are dealing with people pleasing. And like you said, it could really lead you down a path of resentment, which should lead to like bottled up emotions, challenges with relationships, challenges in your work, challenges with family. So I think that for for people that are listening, just know that you're not alone. Like you're not alone. And sometimes it could feel that way because you might feel like, yeah, I am alone. And in reality, you're not.
yeah.
And I think like somebody courageous like Brenda to share this is really important. That's why I was very proud of you for being a part of this book, and for sharing all of this information with us because it has so much value to bring to people that are dealing with just something similar to what have dealt with. And Teresa Mejia, she's saying that she loves this. So, we reach somebody right now that's watching. So thank you, Teresa, for listening. I appreciate you. Yeah.
It's I mean, unless it's funny because I like know people that are not people pleasers in any way, shape, or form. They go through life doing what they want, how they want, and don't care about what you think or what anybody else thinks. And then there's this group of us that just like we care so much, like and I think it comes from a place of caring. Like I think it really does. But then I
Mhm.
think after a while, that place of caring turns into something else. It's like you become this automatic, you become an automatic tool for everybody else to use and how they want to use you, and you're just not capable of defending yourself, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just that you need to be aware of it when you're in those situations with people where you're not making decisions. And for me, it was so bad. I mean, that's why the title Tacos for Dinner. It was so bad that I couldn't even make a decision on what I wanted to eat,
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
are like where I wanted to travel or what I wanted to do on the trip, or a
Mhm.
friend would ask me out, what do you want to do? I don't care, whatever you want to do, I'm good, and I may have wanted to go on a hike or do something, and I just didn't vocalize it because I just wanted them to feel good about what they were doing. So
Yeah. No, yeah, I mean, this has definitely been very insightful. I appreciate you for sharing this. For people listening, maybe just give us like maybe 1 to 3 tips for, closing thoughts or just anything that you would like to share with the people watching that may be dealing with people pleasing. What are your final thoughts that you could share with them, like whether it's a tip or just a thought?
well, I'd say that if you recognize that's what you're doing, like you've crossed one of your first hurdles, is
Mm.
recognizing that you're doing it. And then I would say, slowly, slowly give yourself, little opportunities to be able to vocalize what you need from someone. And that takes time. And it's very scary, I'm not going to lie. But once you start to do it, you get this surge of empowerment that it's just overwhelming. And I'd have to say, like, there's a few things that have happened in the past few months where my sister's like, just, I can't believe this. I can't believe you just said that. I'm so proud of you. And in fact, both of my sisters did that. Like, I can't believe this is coming from. I can't believe you're saying this. I can't believe. And I'm just like, yeah, that's the therapy. That's my life coaching. And I give myself a little bit of a proud moment. But and do that for yourself. When you know you're out with a friend and they're like, what do you want to do for dinner? And you say, I want tacos. Just, you can internally think like, yeah, I made that decision. Way to go.
Yep.
you
Yeah,
know,
I like
so
that.
I think that's the most important thing you can do for yourself, because when you do that, you're triggering your brain to be thoughtful of that, and to like congratulate yourself when you are doing those things, because it's not easy. It is not easy, especially when it comes to more difficult situations. Like tacos for dinner is easy. But when it comes to, you're sitting in front of your partner and you're saying, what you did hurt me, and you know what, I do have a boundary, and you know what, I am going to stick to it, even if you don't like that's what I need to do for myself, because I know that's what I need. So that's like a tougher situation, but you need to be able to do that for yourself too. So
Absolutely, man. This was a lot of good stuff that you shared today. This was like a master class on how to overcome people pleasing. Uh, but yeah, thank you, Brenda, so much for being here today and just sharing your wisdom. And I learned a thing or two as well. I'm always learning from you and the things that you're doing, the actions that you're taking. And for anybody listening, if you want to get to read Brenda's chapter. Here's the book. It's called Reinvent Yourself: Stories of Transformation. She's right there. And her chapter is chapter 2, Tacos for Dinner: How to Overcome People Pleasing. But we also have 10 amazing stories as well. You can grab it on Amazon, you can grab it on ebook, or you can grab it on paperback. I have the paperback right here. I've read some of these stories. Some of them made me cry, I have to admit, but you will be inspired and motivated, and it's very transformative. This book is really, really good. I'm not, maybe I'm being biased because I'm part of it too, but I absolutely love this book because it's like real stories of real people that deal challenges that they've had. So if you want to grab a copy, go to Amazon and you can grab a copy. And then also all the proceeds go to Candlelighters, which is a nonprofit that helps children with blood disorders and cancer. So you will also be sharing it with a good cause. But Brenda, thank you again for being on the show. I greatly appreciate you. You're my first guest, so this was a lot of fun.
I appreciate so much being a part of that book. And I'd have to say that, being able to read other people's stories and know that you're not alone, because I think so often we feel like we're alone in these scenarios, like people pleasing and some of the other stories in your book. And to hear other people talk about, the hurdles they've had to cross and get through and work on and improve, it's just so important and so touching. It's really touching. So
Absolutely. I totally agree. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, get a copy. Like I said, it's really amazing stories that are very transformative. But yeah, again, thank you everybody for joining me on my new podcast, Reinvent Yourself, Discovering Your Higher Purpose. We will be seeing you on the next episode. Have a great one. Bye.